churches, neighborhood pathways, businesses, all around, and all with volunteers and Evergreen State College interns. So, some in 2007, someone wanted us to put a garden in their yard, and it turned out really well. And someone else wanted us to, and so we did that. And basically, I had to move to Olympia and just keep doing it. And so, when someone wants to have a garden like this in their yard, I go and do a consultation with them, and I, I basically start with the fruit trees, and where they would go. So I look at the yard or the
I
space.
think I sent you an invite, though. You could probably do that. I'm sorry, I was unmuted.
Okay. Um, so I would look at the yard and I'd see, oh, you have room for 7 fruit trees. And then I would plan everything else around where the fruit, because the fruit trees have to be a certain distance apart. So I'd measure that out, and I have red flags, and I'd stick a flag in the ground where the fruit trees were going to go, and then from there on, I'd add parts of the fruit tree guild. So then I would because my goal, because we're a nonprofit, my goal was to educate people, to teach people how they could do it themselves. And so I would set a weekend time when I'd send out an emails and put up posters and so on, and let people know that on this Saturday and Sunday we would be installing this garden. And then we'd have get the cardboard and the wood chips, and I'd get all set up with enough basic volunteers like interns, so that we could do it. And then people would come, and they just love it. They'd have such great fun planting the trees. We'd plant the fruit trees and the first, and then go back and put in the berry bushes and nut trees. If we had nut trees too, often in a yard there's not room for nut trees except for hazelnuts. And then we would put down the cardboard and wood chips. And so, and then sometimes we would inoculate with mycelium, some different kind of mushroom, whatever I thought was good there. And then we'd put it in, and we'd always get done. I'd have like 20, 25 people there, and we'd get it done always by, Sunday afternoon. And people enjoyed it. I mean, I've had tons and tons of people involved, hundreds. And these gardens are all around Olympia. And the ones that are on
That's
public,
too much. It does keep pretty well.
Okay.
on public land,
Yeah.
like in a community garden or someplace, a park or schools. I have them in schools. Then I remained involved with those. So I when I started, I read Toby Hemingway's book Gaia's Garden.
No.
Because it's focused on small, like home scale permaculture, putting in perennial polycultures. So I read his book, and he had 3 or 4 chapters on the fruit tree guild. And so I thought, oh, people aren't going to read all those chapters. I need to have something that people can actually read and learn from. And so I distilled it all down into a little flyer. And that is what you're seeing on the screen right now. And I'm just going to read a little bit from it. So the Fruit Tree Guild is a blend of grass suppressors, insect and bird attractants, nutrient accumulators, mulch plants, nitrogen fixers, soil fumigants, and pest repellents, all surrounding a central food producer tree. Toby says, the members of the Fruit Tree Guild support the fruit tree in numerous ways by luring beneficial insects for pollination, boosting soil tilt and fertility, reducing root competition, conserving water, balancing fungal population to counter disease, diversifying the yield of food, creating habitat, and several other functions. The result is a healthier tree and a varied ecology. Also, this biological support replaces human intervention, shifting the gardener's workload onto the broad back of nature. If we
No.
leave, if we leave out one of the guild's purposes, we're stuck with performing that part's task. Eliminating grasses near fruit trees will lessen the need for fertilizers. Grasses are surface feeders and thus vie for nutrients with trees, whose principal feeding roots also lie near the surface where most nutrients reside. With less root and nutrient competition, the fruit trees may be more vigorous. So then it goes on to, and this is on my website, so you could get this link and look at the whole thing. But he goes on to say what the guild is made of. It has grass suppressing bulbs, insect and bird attracting plants, mulch plants, nutrient accumulators, nitrogen fixers, soil fumigants, and pest repellents, habitat nodes. Then the plants that are in this basic fruit tree guild are plants like currants, red and black currants, yarrow, nasturtium, dill, Welsh onion, garlic chives, cardoon, bellflower, comfrey. We usually plant 3 or 4 comfrey plants right around the base of the tree because comfrey has deep roots and will go down 15 feet or so and pull up minerals to feed the tree. And also you can cut it down 4 or 5 times through the summer and then just leave the leaves around there as nutrition. Good King Henry, mallow, salad Bernay, and others. And there are a bunch of nutrient accumulators and insectary plants. And let's see, other soil fumigants and pest repellents and wildlife nurturers and vining like maypop and so on. Nashua, and especially elderberry and serviceberry. I would make sure I put those in every garden. So I'd do a layout, a design, and I'd draw a map of the yard and then put in the fruit trees first, and then where the berry bushes would go. And Toby said that you should have 4 red or black currants around each fruit tree. I usually don't have space for that many, but I set it all up so that there are in between. So if there are 2 fruit trees, then in between I have a red or black currant. And so I grow with my interns. I grow a lot of these plants. I grow all the perennial vegetables because you can't find them anywhere. And I grow the currants and other berry bushes. And I have a nursery, so I have all of these berry bushes and trees and so on in my nursery. So when I do the design, then I buy the trees and some berry bushes that I'm not very good at growing from mostly Burton Ridge Nursery, but also Rain Tree Nursery. And a Burnt Ridge Nursery, Michael Dolan is quite an expert on trees. I don't know if you buy trees from him, plants, but so is Sam Benowitz at Rain Tree. But I have a kind of a special relationship with Michael Dolan, so I could tell him where the location was for the garden, and then tell him whether we went like 2 apples and 3 pears or cherries or whatever. And then of course you have to have the right combination of plants. So he would uh, select those for me, and then we would order them and pick them up at the Olympia Farmers Market. So I've had a lot of help from him and also from Sam Benowitz, who's donated a lot of plants to us. And I have some of those in my kind of experimental gardens. So, yeah, growing a lot of fruit. I think I planted at least 800 fruit and nut trees around Olympia. I counted them up, but yard a yard would average maybe 7 fruit trees. And because we use the cardboard and wood chips, as soon as you put down cardboard and wood chips, then the fungi start to eat the cardboard and wood chips. It's food for them, and then they start to recover the soil. So immediately the soils start to recover, and then I do soil tests and I remineralize whatever is needed, and I about 3 years ago I heard about John Kemp. John Kemp, I don't know if you heard of him, but he's a young person that's quite brilliant in Ohio, and their farm was getting worse and worse every year because they were using pesticides, and they were going to lose the farm. So he went around and met with a lot of regenerative, like biological farmers around the country, and he came up with solutions, and he tried it on their farm, and their farm turned around the first year. And then their neighbors tried it, and their farm turned around the first year. And then other neighbors tried it, and then pretty soon they were applying this, and next thing you know, he had like hundreds of farmers all doing this, and he's converted more than 4 million acres of conventional farming to regenerative agriculture. And that's his mission. And now that's what's kind of in the beginning. And now he's much bigger than that. And he has, so like I said, 3 years ago, I heard about him, and then he has a lot of information. He's very good at sharing information, and a lot of um, YouTubes and so on his website. Different farmers, different orchardists, and he has one orchardist that he works with down in Hood River, and actually he has a consultant that's there in Hood River, and so that consultant works with a lot of orchardists, especially up through Yakima, Hood River, Yakima, and up into Wenatchee, and they're all doing this biological farming, and so the advantage is that you have no um, you have no weeds or pests or diseases. And he said it's all about the microbes and minerals. So they're very careful. The big thing is minerals, to check your minerals all the time, and to give the plant the minerals that they need. So as I began learning from him, then I started applying it on my gardens with amazing results. So basically, it depends on it works on whether you have corn or wheat or trees or vegetables. whatever, but it's a matter of checking for the minerals and then applying the minerals that the plant needs. And then I developed my recipe from basically talking to a lot of different farmers, regenerative farmers that have trees or berry bushes, because that's what I have. And so I do a foliar spray starting in the spring. I do a foliar spray with it's EM. There are different microbial inoculants. There's I can't think of their name right now, up in Spokane that does one, but I happen to be using EM as my microbial inoculant, and then liquid fish, and um, and then mycorrhizal fungi. So it's I get it from Paul Stamets from Fungi Perfecti, and so we make a foliar spray of those three things, and every 3 weeks we put in sea crop, which is sea minerals, and then we do a fertigation. They call it that because you're basically fertilizing through your irrigation. But in our case, we're kind of smaller, so we use a little spray tank, and so we do the same. We do the liquid fish, but we add liquid kelp and the microbial inoculant EM and the microgrow, and so we put that in the root zone of each plant of each, well, any kind of plant, every 7 days through the summer. So basically, we're making the root zone very healthy, so that the microbes are doing the work for us, and they're feeding the trees and increasing. He advocates increasing photosynthesis as much as you can by making the root zone, the plants roots, very healthy. Mike Omeg is he grows cherries in Hood River. He was growing cherries for the Asian market until recently, but he said that in the early years he paid attention to the top of the tree. He was focusing on the tree above ground, and now he's learned that he needs to focus on the root zone of the tree, and uh, then his whole tree is going to be very healthy. So he's a great model. And John Kemp discovered that using Rejuvenate in the fall, especially like in October, was great. They did this first because they were trying to get in a field, or like a cornfield or wheat field or something. They wanted the stubble and so on to break down quickly, so they did this, and it worked. But then they found that when they used it all over the fields, whatever you have, vegetables and in the red zone of trees, it basically is um, molasses, sea crop, the sea mineral, um, liquid kelp, and humic acid mixed together. And so I do that. I do that through the summer every 3 weeks. And then right now I'm focusing on being sure to do that in October, before winter comes on. And then he said that, and it's true, I've done it and it works. He said that when you feed the roots like this in the fall, especially with the molasses, then the plants are going to be the root zone. The roots are going to be doing a lot with the microbes through the winter, and so there's going to be a lot of buildup of energy, so that in March, February, March, April, when the tree starts to get leaves and gets blossoms, then it has the energy it needs to take off. So I'm doing that now, and I have a like a kind of a research garden on Libby Road in Olympia. I've got 60 fruit trees, hundreds of berry bushes, 9 nut trees, and I've got it I've got part of it set up in the hedgerow. And so after 2 years of doing this, I got a soil test from the conservation district, the soil carbon test. So basically the soil health test. And I'd only been doing this for 2 years with these applications, and it was 94% on my carbon. And so yeah, so I've been trying the hedgerows because a lot of farms, or even in your property along roads, or in between fields, around buildings and so on, there's a lot of space that people have that they don't use. Maybe it's not a good enough soil or whatever for row crops, but you can put trees there. And so the hedgerow is basically a line of trees. It's an edible forest garden, really, but all in a line. So you have your berry bushes, so you can plan what you want to put there so that you're growing a crop that you can sell. So I have these hedgerows in different places, and I've been experimenting with them. And can you tell me what time it is? Let's see. I got to make sure I stay on track
So how
here.
do I turn this off? How do I make my headphone work?
Let me see. I'm just
It
gonna.
is. All right, never mind.
Oh, okay. I'm about 7:30. Okay. So anyway, I just tested. I use a refractometer to test the nutrient density of my food, because that's what I'm after. I'm after nutrient density. So in I have a couple of these bigger market gardens, and we're looking for healthy food. So I use a refractometer, and I just tested an apple. It's um, in my hedgerow, and it was 19 bricks. An excellent for an apple was 18. So my fruit comes out higher than excellent. And I grow some kabocha squash on the edge of the hedgerow. And the first 2 years of using these practices, I had bricks of 17. And last year it was 18, and excellent is 16. So all of my kabocha squash that I feed to my goats are very nutrient dense, lot of minerals. So that's real important to me, and so that's what I strive for. Let's see here. Last winter, I was on a working group with a group of farmers and a lot of people who wanted to get a bill passed in the legislature to provide funding to farmers, grant funding, not not loans, but grant funding to farmers to help them to convert to regenerative agriculture. And we got it through the legislature. It passed in March. It's called Sustainable Farms and Fields, and it's run through the Conservation Commission and managed by the local conservation districts. So we got it passed, and now they're working on the funding, and so there will be funding for farmers. And right now they're looking for kind of shovel ready projects that farmers might have that that they could fund first. And it's regenerative agriculture mainly. And but I got a lot of the fruit trees and nut trees included in it. So, and hedgerows and uh, re, anyway, just trees anywhere. So if you want to plant a lot of nut trees and fruit trees, then you might check in with the conservation district and see if you might get funding for that. And I'm still on the the committee, the working groups that are setting that all up. And I'm quite excited about that. Also, I'm in Thurston County, the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan that the county's working on. The 4 jurisdictions, the 3 cities and the county are working on regenerative agriculture, increasing it to help with climate mitigation. And it figures quite prominently in the plan. We just had the draft plan come out just about a week ago. And so I've been active in getting that all organized. And so there will be protecting existing trees for the carbon storage and sequestration, and then plant 37,000 acres more of trees in order to meet their climate goals. But a lot of those can be fruit and nut trees. So I've been talking with the different jurisdictions about including and planting a lot of fruit and nut trees. And I have some of my interns growing trees right now. One of them planted 3,500 chestnuts that, to have small trees to plant out. And I, one thing I've learned is that, or noticed, is that if we're going to plant fruit trees, nut trees in larger areas, then another of my permaculture teachers helps out a lot. Jeff Lawton from Australia. I learned from him how to do swales on contour. And you can do the swales on contour. I think your leader there knows how to do them. Someone there knows how to do them. And then you have berms. You end up with the berms, and plant the fruit and nut trees in the berms. And then where the fruit trees are, then you can plant the fruit tree guild also in the berms or nearby. So I have my newest project it's the third, we just finished the 3rd summer on it now, but it's got swales on contour that are 20 feet apart. And so in the berms, we have 60 fruit trees, and then we have about 50 nut trees, hundreds of berry bushes, and then we have a lot of perennial vegetables in the fruit tree guild, in the berms, and other things that we're growing and trying out. It's experimental, and but it's a family. I'm helping a family get this going, and they want it to be a market garden that they can live on eventually. And so that's been very successful. And in between, you can plant other things. So we're still deciding what we're going to plant in between. We're trying different things because you can do wood chip gardening with by planting. Some things do really well, like the potatoes or the squash. And anyway, we're still figuring out with our soil, because we have certain kind of soil, what works best. And it's quite exciting. The trees have grown a lot because we're doing the foliar spray and the fertigation every 7 days, and pretty soon we're going to do the rejuvenate. And it's pretty amazing. You're welcome to come and visit it if you come down this way. It's actually outside of Olympia in Elma. Yeah, so I think those are the main things I wanted to share with you, but certainly open for some questions.
Is everybody muted? Or?
Yes. Everybody's muted. Unmute if you want to ask a question. I wonder if I can unmute everybody.
Are you willing to share your brochure?
Yes, and that's it on the website. and I have them. I print them out all the time and take them with me whenever I speak. So, yeah, you can find it on the website. I think the link is there.
Oh, great. Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, everybody use it. It's Toby Heavenways, and I showed it to him once. I said, "Look, I made this down to where people could use it," and he said it looks great. So I have permission.
I have a quick question regarding insect damage to your fruit. So I know that on Bainbridge Island, we have a number of fruit forests. And one of the challenges we have is that, especially with apples, is that you get the codling moth and you get the apple maggots, particularly if they're in neighboring orchards. It can be very problematic. So I'm curious whether your approach also results in reduction of insect damage to the fruit.
Yes, yeah, or diseases that they get, they just don't get them.
So you
And
don't have any codling moth or apple maggot damage on any of your apples?
well, my trees aren't that old, but now that I'm using this biological agriculture,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you just don't get diseases. There's a cherry disease that a lot of the farmers in Yakima have had trouble with, and they have to take out their cherry orchards and so on. This
Hmm.
method even is stopping that. Can't think of a name of it. It's cherry something. It even stops that because the plant gets so healthy that insects don't bite it because it doesn't it can't do it. It can't eat it. So
That's good to know.
they
Thank you.
a question like that. If you go to the um to John Kemp's website, Advancing Eco Agriculture, on the front page, you go down to the bottom and there's an 800 number. If you call that number, you're going to end up getting
Is that
a
bothering you?
consultant and ask that question of those consultants because they can tell you what to do. But yeah, it's when you make the plant so healthy through its roots, then you don't get the diseases and insects. And so on the ones that I've only been doing this in my third year, but yeah, we don't have any insects or diseases.
Good to
He
know.
doesn't either. Yeah, but call him and you get a consultant and he can explain the whole thing a lot better than I can.
I notice I have one apple guild, and we've been neglecting it for now 4 years, and we had very little, if any, apple maggot on it for some reason. But we have one of the apples, a sacrificial apple, and I'm getting a lot of feedback here. All right, let me try. I can still hear feedback. Is anybody else getting feedback when I'm talking?
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea how to get rid of it. So I'll just be quiet.
Yeah, John Kemp does a lot of webinars and podcasts and so on, and he just wrote a book. I think he's writing another one with what he's discovered since, let's see, it's about 2006 when he started down this path. And so I watch him all the time. I've learned so much from listening to him. And it's not just him. He's working with, like I said, over 1,000 farmers, and on their farms, they'll try different things. So they have a space where they have their experiment. And they have a way of testing for minerals which my brain is just not pulling it up, but you do it like every 2 weeks. And so plant sap analysis, that's what it's called, plant sap analysis. So you take a young leaf and an old leaf, you get this, they'll send you the kit, and you take a young leaf and an old leaf and send it in, and they do a test on it. And then they can tell you exactly what the plant needs. So and so you can give it the right minerals at just the right time. And otherwise, if you would wait 3 weeks until the disease shows up, then it's too late because you already have the disease. But if you do the plant sap analysis regularly, then you see what it needs. Maybe it needs boron, or maybe it needs something else. And you give it that, and then it won't get that disease that it was going to get in a few weeks because of mineral imbalance in the soil. So I haven't done that because I have too many different kinds of plants. So it's, if a farmer, maybe you have all apples and it helps, or you're growing vegetables or you're growing wheat or whatever, then it's very useful. And of course I'm just doing small projects. A lot of those other farmers it's all farmer to farmer sharing this, and they're making a living. But they when they start it the first year, they see progress. I heard of one, a farmer down in California, growing, my brain. Anyway, he started using these methods. He was not getting enough fruit, and the first year he got so much fruit, and it was so good that he got a Costco contract. Yeah, so it really works, and that's the way farmers are changing over, because they see other farmers doing it, and the farmers are making more money the first year, and so it's spreading across the country really fast. And there are quite a few farmers here in Washington State that are doing it, and more will.
Pat, what are they growing mostly?
The farmers that I'm
Yes.
talking about,
Yeah, the
it's
farmers are
everything.
converting.
It's everything. It's corn, or because he's Amish and he's in Ohio.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of them that are in the East, but there are also quite a few in California and Washington. Um, but fruit trees, like I said, there's a consultant here in Washington State that works just on fruit trees. And if you wanted, I could give you his phone number, or I check in with him every once in a while. And but the consultants on that 800 number on their website can also, refer you to him. But yeah, they grow all kinds of fruit, and berries. A lot of blueberries. They have really good success with blueberries, aronia berries. Mm. But like I said, it can be vegetables. There's some vegetable farms on the Olympic Peninsula that are using it, and corn, wheat, whatever, soybeans, whatever. Yeah,
How,
just check it out on his website. It's wonderful.
how about conifers?
Yeah, I don't know about conifers with that, because I've just focused on, of course I know about conifers, but I mean, I'm not growing conifers. I'm just growing fruit trees and nut trees, basically. So that's what I've paid attention to when I'm listening to them, or reading what they share. So I don't know. But it's probably good, but again, I don't know.
And Pat, how do you get your customers? I mean, the people that you're going to do the yard work with.
Um, I I had an email list, and I would send out emails, a lot of word of mouth, and putting posters around town and letting people know. I used to have, like Toby Hemingway, I'd have him come and speak in Olympia and at the college, and had a lot of experts come and speak. And it just built up a lot of people who were interested, and hundreds of them. And yeah, and now there's Eastside Urban Farm and Garden sells a lot of fruit trees and nut trees and berry bushes, so on. And so now a lot of people just go there and buy them and put them in their yards themselves. I got so busy on these bigger projects that I haven't had time. I did a yard last spring, but I kind of don't have time because I have these, bigger projects where I have 60 trees in one place and 60 trees in another place, and I'm pretty busy. But I still have interns. I have interns from Evergreen State College, and uh, they get credit when they work with me. Then they can be part of their class, and they get. I teach them, that through experientially, through they help me, and then they get credit for that. And I work with teachers, so a lot of young people have learned this, and hopefully they're traveling around the world putting in edible forest gardens everywhere. That's my dream.
Have you found more interest since the COVID pandemic hit?
Yeah, there definitely is interest. And I don't know if you had the trouble, but we even had trouble getting seeds. But and Michael Dolan and Burnt Ridge and Raintree Nursery both ran out of plants. They sold out. So
Right.
yeah, and
Heard it.
now I'm doing it at this kind of larger level, with doing it with the Conservation Commission. I'm hoping to work with a lot of farmers as this starts taking off, especially focusing on the hedgerows and planting nut trees. So I've got my interns preparing for that because they're hoping. And then this big tree planting that the Thurston County will be doing, I'm set up to help uh, do those. So I'm kind of, you know, saving time for myself. And I'm giving talks a lot and about regenerative agriculture and the opportunity to take carbon out of the atmosphere with planting trees. And so I see a lot of it's moving. It's moving, and it's growing, and it's just getting started, but it is growing and moving. So, and there's a lot of farmers that are really, excited about being a part of it. And some of them, a lot of them around here have vegetables, or they have, there's a regenerative goat farm not far from me. They milk 500 goats twice a day and use regenerative methods in their, moving the goats through the pastures and so on. So, well, it's pretty exciting. Some of the vegetable farmers that sell at the Olympia Farmers Market are doing regenerative ag, and they're very excited about it. So I see it. I see it growing.
Are you, I was wondering, biochar, I'm sorry, I drew a
Oh
blank.
yeah, I do use biochar. Yeah, every hole we dig, I should have mentioned that. But every hole we dig to plant a tree or bush or whatever, we put biochar in it. We put it overnight in liquid fish. Pacific Grow that makes the liquid fish is only 40 miles from us down here in Raymond, and so it's really easy for us to get through Black Lake Organic. Yeah, so biochar for sure,
There's
because biochar is like hotel for microbes, so it's all about microbes, and so we basically just do what we can to nourish the microbes and then let them do the work.
there's a pulp mill. I think it's a pulp mill. Anyway, they're producing biochar now, and you can apply for it. John, one of our members, brought it up, and he's got you get your first yard free once you fill out an application, and then you can pay for it after that.
Yeah,
But
it's really easy to work with, and
yeah,
there is a lot of it available. And
but yeah, it's a lot cheaper though to get it this way than to buy it on Amazon, where it's like, $15 for 1 quart.
yeah, and there are a bunch of people totally into biochar up around Port Townsend and up on the peninsula. Can't think of his name right now, but if I could give you his contact information for the main one, because I've had him. I was on the permaculture convergence organizing a lot, and so I've had him as speaker presenter. But yeah, he knows how to get it. It's not expensive, and you don't need to use a lot of it.
Right. It does make a difference though.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I'll put up the on the screen one more time. Pat's contact information. No other questions? All right, Pat, any final words?
I just thank you for calling me and asking me to present to you. And if you have any questions, do email me or call me. Yeah, and do look into the conservation district. It's probably your local conservation district might not be fully aware of it yet because the planning is being done at the state level, but they will have information soon, I would think.
All right.
Okay, well,
all right.
thanks. And
Well,
good
thank
luck.
you very much. And
You're
we
welcome.
really appreciated the thing. And now I can turn off the recording, and it'll be coming on to YouTube. So you can watch it again and catch stuff that you may have missed. And we have a YouTube channel. So let me turn off screen, stop sharing. All right. Thanks a lot, Pat.
Okay,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
All right. We can move into our regular portion of the meeting. And does anybody need, well, I guess you can just turn your video off and go take a break if you need a break. Let me share the screen and show the agenda. This is our agenda. We called the meeting. Pat gave her speech, and I'm going to stop recording.